I'm on.
Councilmember Denise White, are you on? She will not be here. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, with just a couple more minutes, if you don't mind. Greg, are you ready?
Yeah, Bob's here somewhere. No. Was he not here today? Oh. Okay. I thought I saw his just.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We are now going to start our regular city council meeting of October 12th, 2020. Call this meeting to order now. Mr. Williams, if you don't mind, lead us in the pledge.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, if you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
of the United
of
States,
the United States of America
to the republic,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we did better that time.
That's funny. Okay. Jennifer, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bogue,
Here.
Councilmember Duncan, Councilmember Riddell,
Here,
Mayor Pro Tem Allen, Mayor Avila.
Here. Okay, we have 3 people present today, so it constitutes a quorum. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so we can proceed with the city council meeting. Mr. Casey, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have 2 changes, as I understand it. I'll ask the city attorney to confirm that, but we have the closed session item that we would like to pull off the agenda and come back to council at a later date. And then for item number 7, given that we have 3 council members here this evening, we would ask that you vote on subsection action number 1, action number 3, and not on number 2, given that we can't have a 4/5 vote this evening.
Okay, and that is the mitigation storm season preparation. Okay. All righty. Yeah, hopefully we can get that no later than the end of this month. Okay, public comment. Jennifer, are there any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay, if there's any members of the audience who wish to speak this evening, we do have speaker slips over there to end here by the entrance to the city council chambers. I'll give you a moment to go ahead and fill one out if you'd like. And you'll have 3 minutes to speak on any subject unless there's something specific to the agenda, then we'll ask you to wait until that agenda item comes up. Seeing no takers, we'll go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything that someone would like to pull off the consent for discussion? I believe that's items 1 and 2.
No, but I'll move consent.
We have a motion to approve the consent. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second. Hearing no further discussion, Jennifer, you take the roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bogue,
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan, Councilmember Riddell,
Here, yeah,
Mayor Pro Tem Allen, Mayor Avila.
Yes. Very good. It passes. 3 with 2 not present, 2 absent. Okay, mayor and council member business reports. Are there any business reports from staff or people on the dais? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 3, the Youth Advisory Committee appointment. Sarah Martinez.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am here this evening as the staff liaison for the Youth Advisory Committee to recommend the appointment of Angela Fan to the Youth Advisory Committee. The committee serves as an advisory body to you, the Yucaipa City Council, and the intent is to improve youth involvement in city issues, activities, and provide committee members to a roadmap for success. Angela was a proud member of the Youth Advisory Committee for the past 2 years. She is currently a senior at Yucaipa High School. While she is still leaving her options open, she is interested in a potential career that includes economics or data science. Her primary college choice would be to attend any UC school. When asked when you should know about Angela that you may not already know, her response is that she has loved living in Yucaipa for the past 16 years, and being on the Youth Advisory Committee has been the highlight of it. There is no fiscal impact as a result of this action. Angela Fan is being recommended for appointment to the Youth Advisory Committee for a 2-year commitment effective today through September 1st, 2022. The Youth Advisory Committee members will continue to recruit for the remaining at-large vacant positions. At this time, I invite Angela Fan to say a few words.
Welcome, Angela.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and
Go ahead,
Council
pull
members.
your mic down.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I just wanted to say that I have really enjoyed the past 2 years as a council member, or as a member of Youth Advisory Committee, and I would really be grateful and appreciate the opportunity to join again, and I would love to see what the committee can do this year, especially for all of the youth in Yucaipa. Thank you.
Very nice, very good. Thank you. Now, this is, we'll go ahead and have a motion or a discussion and/or motion to accept Angela to be on the member of the Youth Advisory Committee. Is there any discussion on the item?
No, but I will move.
I hear a motion to approve and recommend Angela become a member of the Youth Advisory Commission. Mr. Riddell, do I hear a second from you?
Yes.
We have a second. No further discussion? Jennifer, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Vogt,
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan, Councilmember Riddell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen, Mayor Avila.
Yes, you won us over. Thank you very much.
Well, welcome back.
Angela, can we have our picture taken with you?
What's that? I'm sorry.
A picture taken with Angela?
Yes.
Does anybody have objections to us taking off our masks if we spread out appropriately? No? Okay. There we go. Keep your mask in your hands so people think that we're not.
I'm gonna take one more
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you, Greg. It was a good suggestion. Okay, council members, do we have any business to report? I have nothing from Omnitrans or SBCTA.
I have nothing.
Ray, would this be a time to talk about the League of California Cities? Okay, very good. Good suggestion. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to department reports. Item number 4, the CARES Act Coronavirus Relief Fund allocation. Mr. Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This item is kind of a follow-on to some previous discussions we've had relative to CARES Act funding, but it also represents new funding for us coming from the county that was recently approved by the Board of Supervisors. Just as a reminder for council and the public, CARES Act funding was approved directly from the state, federal funding through the state to the city of Yucaipa in the amount of $687,800 and some change a number of months ago. That funding has been used for small business grants that have been for businesses that have been affected by the pandemic. It's been used for the testing that occurred early in this process, March, April, if I remember right, for unusual unemployment costs as a result of the legislation, federal legislation associated with the CARES Act funding, and some police and fire costs and some other minor staffing costs as well. Most of that has been already allocated. There's some of that still remaining. There's an item on the agenda later that that talks about computer purchases and information system purchases, but most of the CARES Act funding number 1 has been allocated consistent with the guidelines. CARES Act funding number 2, I'm characterizing it as directly from the county, is in the same amount, $687,883 to be precise. And it has some of the same, most of the same guidelines, I guess all of the same guidelines for its use, including that it has to be used fairly quickly. And so most cities that are in the county that have received approval for this funding are using it for many of the same things, the police and fire costs during the eligible time period, probably mostly police costs. And there may be a few other things that we can accomplish given the timeframes allocated with the funding. But you also have on the agenda later this evening CDBG program for additional small business funding for your consideration this evening. So our recommendation is to use the CARES Act 2 funding, again, primarily for police, fire, and for perhaps a local match. The county is still considering their final guidelines for this, if you will, even though it has to be used by the end of the year, has to be spent by the end of the year. And they will be making those decisions tomorrow, we believe. But one of the things that the city managers and our weekly CEOs conference call have requested is the potential to use this funding, some of this funding, as local match for what I'll call CARES Act funding 3. And that is CARES Act funding 2 is $23 million for the entire county. CARES Act funding 3 is $25 million for the entire county. They are considering whether that should be distributed to cities on a per capita basis or on some kind of a competitive basis, and whether or not you can use as a city some of the CARES Act funding 2 to match CARES Act funding 3. The CARES Act funding 3 is for projects only. And those projects have to be, the cost associated with those projects has to be spent by the end of the year. And so these are not street projects or drainage projects. Their definition of projects, at least, again, this is all preliminary until the final guidelines come out, has been, at least in these discussions, has been information systems projects, essentially. And so, as council may recall, in the budget process, we started talking about strategic plan for implementing phased improvements, enhancements with our information system, information technology, and that's going to be an expensive proposition. And other cities are looking at the same types of uses for this CARES Act 3 funding. We feel like we can accomplish at least a pretty good phase of that by the end of December. And again, those are the kinds of projects that the county is suggesting that cities apply for, in addition to the computer enhancements, the perhaps city council chambers enhancements, all of which is targeted at providing better service to the community, to the public, through enhancements to computers, enhancements to our software packages, so that we can do a better job, continue to do a better job. I think we've made some progress in the last few months, but continue to do a better job with online plan checking, online permitting, Zoom conferences. You'll hear more about that later, but all of those efforts to enhance public access, even though folks are somewhat limited in their interest in coming out to whether it's council meetings or actually being in the lobby in person. We are allowing those things now. Those are all allowed now, but what we've seen is that people have taken advantage of online permitting, plan checking, all those sorts of things. And the challenges that we shared with council in the budget process relative to our current software and the fact that their folks are not really updating the software as we go anymore, and the timing of this CARES Act #3 funding round of applications is probably good. And so we'd like to, number one, ask that council review and approve the additional CARES Act coronavirus relief funds, CARES Act 2 that I talked about in the amount of $687,883. Number two, confirm the city manager's execution of the allocation of agreement between the county of San Bernardino and the city of Yucaipa related to the CARES Act Coronavirus Relief Fund for local governments, and that agreement is in your agenda packet. Number three, authorize staff to submit an application for CARES Act funding 3 from the county of San Bernardino consistent with their requirements. And again, that's the probably the IT projects. Maybe there are several different components. Maybe it's a city council chambers upgrade as well, but there have to be projects, purchases likely related to information technology. And then number four, review the need to continue the local emergency regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Find that the continuation until the city council meeting of November 9th, 2020 is necessary, and appropriate and extend the emergency proclamation through that date, November 9th, 2020. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ray. Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Riddell, do you have a question or a comment?
No questions, no comments.
Mr. Bogue?
So the 687,000, is this supposed to be, now just for clarification, is this supposed to be allocated or spent by the end of the year?
Spent by the end of the year.
Okay.
And the CARES Act too, the 687,000, with the proposed plan of spending it on primarily police and fire with some other minor expenditures, more minor expenditures. That's not an issue. That can be costs that have already been accrued starting in March through today. So that should not be an issue. The challenge is really going to be the IT project if in fact we go forward and try to procure funding for IT program.
But we have to have the second phase spent before we can even apply to the third, huh?
No, they're independent, but again, we'll have the second phase spent.
Okay.
That's not a challenge.
And my question is, have we already earmarked the CARES 3 money? Have we done that yet?
We have, Jason has done a really good job of working with a potential provider of software, a new software program or package, if you will. We are prepared to move forward. We have a proposal. We have a phased-in approach to it to make sure that whatever we apply for through the county, we can accomplish by the end of December. And so Jason's been working on that prospectively, awaiting the county to make their final decisions about those guidelines.
Okay, and how much money are we expected to get from them for CARES 3?
Well, our share of CARES Act 2 was $687,000 out of a $23 million budget. The project budget is $25 million. And so just if everything was pro rata share, equally distributed under that scenario, it would be over $700,000.
Okay. One of the things I saw in the frequently asked questions section included a question, let's see, can we use this money to help offset, basically offset rents for people who are being laid off because of COVID? And the answer was yes. Could that fall under some sort of project or something? I mean, is there something that we can do with this money besides spend it on us? And I don't mean to be rude, but give back to the community somehow, some way, so people can be relieved from, especially like the renters, the people who own the homes that they're renting, they're losing money. You've heard Councilmember Bogue, lament about these folks are losing out and businesses are losing out because of this. I'd like to find a way to use some of this money, if possible, to give back to the folks. Is there anything we can do?
So it's a great question. And when we discussed different options for CARES Act 1, we looked at those scenarios, whether it was assistance with rent or direct assistance to small businesses, and not that you have to choose one or the other, but the direct assistance to the small businesses seemed to be the preferred way to go, and the CDBG funding in the amount of $202,000 that you have the ability to review and approve tonight, if you so choose, is another effort to help small businesses. We haven't gone down the path of helping private individuals with their rent, but we can certainly look at that. Starting a new program at this point and having to have the funding spent by the end of December would be a little bit of a challenge, but we can certainly look at that and bring that back to council for the next meeting to consider a program there. But the CDBG program, just as an example, and that's more complicated, certainly, but the CDBG program that's on the agenda tonight, you gave us preliminary approval for several months ago, and it took us several months to get the program put together, run through the appropriate review process, and back to you for approval this evening. And we think we can get that money wisely spent in the timeframes that are allocated, but that has a longer deadline that we can do even into next year and beyond. But there is no ability to extend these CARES Act funding opportunities beyond the end of December. So we'll put together, or try to put together a program and bring it back to council, hopefully the next meeting, move as quickly as we can for some of this funding to be made available through rent subsidies. I am also reminded that that we have approved Smiles for Seniors in the amount of $15,000 for rent relief. Not a big number, but some assistance there as well. So.
And it's just that we seem to have this money, and I get it.
Well,
we need to offset some of our costs due to our losses, but if we have the opportunity to go someplace, expand beyond us, that would be great.
And of course, even those costs, police and fire, are costs that support the community. So, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
I get it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of using it towards 501Cs and not being, run by the city. I think that would be a better option.
So if that's okay, we can reach out to Smiles for Seniors and others to see if they want to augment that program. That would be easier to pull off in the time that we have allotted.
I would be okay with looking into that. That doesn't mean I'm agree with it at this point, but I think it's a viable option.
Would that be
That's fine.
agreeable?
Yeah.
If I were to bring that back next meeting with a recommendation and how much that makes sense, we'll reach out to Smiles for Seniors and others, and
Sure,
that would make it easier. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can look at that.
Yeah,
I just want to find a way to give back directly to the community, not, if we have the money to blow, if they want to give it to us, let's just find a way to spend it. Get it out there. All right. Any discussion on this?
Well, I will move item 1 through 4.
Okay, we have a motion to approve items 1 through 4 on the CARES Act Coronavirus Relief Fund allocation discussion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second. If no further discussion, Jennifer, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bogue,
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan, Councilmember Riddell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen, Mayor Avila.
Yes. All right. Moving on. Computer and conference room upgrades, item number 5, and that'll be Jason Underwood.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The item before you is for computer and conference room upgrades in the amount of $33,555.98. Due to the COVID pandemic, the city has an urgent need to improve staff's ability to work and collaborate in remote, virtual, and/or at-home environments. Also, to better serve the public, enabling staff to be able to be available through teleconference and other virtual means is vital. The proposed equipment in this report, which includes desktop computers, laptops, and webcams, will enable staff to perform work remotely, to offer services to the public via teleconferences, and to attend meetings and conferences virtually. Pursuant to the CARES Act requirements, the city has designated $59,626 of the CARES Act coronavirus relief funds. I'm not sure which phase that is, 1, 2? Ray, correct me if I'm wrong. Somewhere in there, that was awarded to the city of Yucaipa to be used for technology and to improve collaboration, mobility, and citizen access. There is sufficient funding available based on that number for the items listed in the staff report. This concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Are there any questions of staff? Mr. Riddell?
No questions. I'll move the item.
We have a motion to approve the item. Mr. Bogue?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. If there's no further discussion, Jennifer, take the roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Vogt,
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan, Councilmember Riddell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen, Mayor Avila.
Yes. All right, motion approved. Item number 6, Proposition 68, Statewide Park Development and Community Revitalization Grant Program. Fermin Preciado. I love saying that.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. This item is for the Proposition 68 Grant Program. This grant program is the largest in the history of the United States, with over $1 billion in funding being made available through Proposition 84 and the Proposition 68 Bond Acts. The intent of the program is to create new parks and new recreational opportunities in underserved communities across California. For the this year's round of grant funding, almost $400 million in grant funding is being made available on a competitive basis. The eligible projects are new park development projects, expansion of an existing park, and renovations of existing parks. Staff is recommending the submittal of an application requesting about $7.4 million for the construction of the proposed Dunlap Park, which is proposed to be located at the intersection, at the southwest intersection of Oakland Road and Avenue E. In 2017, the city contracted with the RHA Landscape Architects to complete the engineering and the architectural design of this park. On the screen, you can see the Dunlap Park concept plan, which was the basis of the engineering and the architectural design that was completed by the consultant. The park includes a small community center and office building, a lake or a pond for passive recreation use, playground, outdoor multi-purpose plaza. Due to its location next to Wilson Creek, it includes a trailhead and parking for the multi-use trail, and also the open turf play areas and other park amenities, landscaping, irrigation, and other items like that. This next exhibit is a 3D rendering of the park itself, and as you can see, it's adjacent to Oakland Road, Avenue E, and Wilson Creek. The design and the construction plans for the park were completed in 2019. Before the design was initiated, and also during the design, there were many community meetings that were held. And also the public outreach efforts were expanded for this project, and the purpose of that was to request input from the community for the design, the engineering, architecture, and even the programming elements of the proposed park. With the City Council's approval last year in 2019, staff submitted an application for grant funding under this same program, under the previous grant cycle for the construction of this project. Earlier this year, staff was informed that the city's application was not successful So staff reached out to the grant program officers to following that decision, just to gain input on the city's application. And we did receive some valuable feedback regarding that application. We were informed that the project did meet all of the grant program's criteria. And one of the things that stood out were the many public community meetings and the city's outreach effort for this project. They also indicated that the city should reapply for the next round, this current round, for the same construction funding, and expand on the details of the public outreach efforts, and expand on the details from the input that was received during the community meetings, and the many events the information that was received during the events that the city had, where we had city staff collecting surveys or conducting surveys on what people would like to see at this park, and that was very helpful. Some of the additional input that was received was regarding the specific design of the playground, the trails, and the ADA access to those playgrounds, since the project doesn't include what they call an all-access playground, which has many features that are designed for children with disabilities. If approved, staff will revise the application to include these details and the other feedback that was received from the grant officers in the grant application, and submit it prior to the deadline later this year. Matching funds are required, or are not required for the application. However, the higher the local match funds are, the more competitive, the more points you get when the application is being reviewed. So staff is recommending that council amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 CIP by transferring the amount of $210,000 in previously approved carryover budget from the assigned fund balance of the general fund to this project. With that, staff recommends that City Council approve the recommendations as listed in the agenda report for this item. And that concludes my report, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Fermin. Is any questions or comments of staff? Mr. Riddell?
No question.
Mr. Bogue?
Nope.
All right, I have no questions. Do I hear a motion to approve this project?
So move.
We have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second? I'll second it. Okay. All right, we have a first and a second. If there are no further discussions, we'll take a roll call vote, please, Jennifer.
Just really quick, just for clarification, this is just us applying for a grant to see if we can help build this park. We're not building this park. This
No,
is just applying for money for a park.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none. Jennifer, we take the roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bogue,
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan, Councilmember Riddell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen, Mayor Avila.
Yes. Okay, item passes. Moving on to item number 7, the El Dorado Fire Mitigation and Storm Season Preparation Resolution. And that will be Fermin once again.
Yes, thank you. Again, this item is related to the El Dorado fire. On September 6th of this year, the city manager proclaimed a local emergency due to the fire here in Yucaipa. The watersheds that were affected by the fire include Wilson Creek, Spore Creek, and Oakland Creek, and also a small portion of Wallwood Creek, along with various local smaller drainage tributaries within the city. And over the last few weeks, staff has been assessing the fire burn areas and also actively preparing for the upcoming winter storm season. We've been working with the county flood control, with the County of San Bernardino staff, the Natural Resource Conservation Services, and also meeting with private property owners within the city and also outside the city limits within the county unincorporated areas. And as you are aware, when storms occur following a wildfire, an intense wildfire like we had, highly eroded, deforested soils in the burn area. They cause flooding and debris flows downstream of those areas. A post-fire watershed assessment is being conducted in the burn areas to identify the on-site and also the downstream threats to the public health or safety from these flows. In an effort to prepare for the storm season, city staff has initiated several things. Some of them include the continuous monitoring of the weather patterns, inspection and the maintenance of the downstream drainage courses downstream of the burn areas. And we've also began the process of amending the established storm route monitoring, or the storm monitoring routes throughout the city. These are the routes that city staff will use to monitor different parts of the city during rain events. We've also facilitated meetings with NRCS staff. This is the Natural Resources Conservation Services staff, and private property owners, again, both inside and outside the city limits, in an effort for those property owners to seek some assistance from NRCS. For the next step in the process, or what we're considering or calling phase 1 of the city's efforts to prepare for the upcoming storm season, staff is recommending a few additional measures. They include the purchase of additional sandbags, signage to be posted throughout the city, and other traffic control devices for use by the city and the general public during the storm events. We've been working on establishing staging areas near the burn area for more efficient responses to these potential high-risk areas, and also considering actually getting quotes and proposals for the purchase of the concrete K-rails, concrete barriers that you've seen throughout the city. This is for in an effort to divert stormwater and debris within these burn areas and downstream of the burn areas. We've also been updating our on-call contracts for emergency services from local contractors for the placement of that K-rail or other emergency-related work such as grading and excavating. There's a few exhibits that are attached to the agenda report that I will be showing on the screen. The first one is this map of the city, which shows what we're calling the areas of concern. And as you can see, they are primarily in the North Bench area along Spore Creek and along Wilson Creek and Oakland Creek, just east of, this is Jefferson here.
For me, may I interrupt you real fast? Ms. Young, are you here? There you go. Thank you. We're in the northwest corner there, northeast corner. That's our area of concern. I'm sorry, for me. Go ahead.
Sure. This next slide shows what we're calling the North Bench Area 1. And we've identified a couple of possible basin or debris stockpile areas, as you can see in the orange color. Here. This is Ivy and Jefferson. Right here. Yeah. We've also identified with these purple lines the possible locations where K-rail may be installed. And these circles represent locations where we propose to install some signage similar to what you've seen in Oakland, just advising residents and people traveling of the mud and debris flow possible in those areas. And you've seen those signs. Those are they're orange signs with the black lettering. This next slide shows the Oakland Creek and Pendleton Avenue area. Again, this is Oakland Road and Pendleton, and this is Oakland Creek here. This is the Wilson Creek at Jefferson Street. It's Fur Avenue to the north here, and then Jefferson. Just off the screen to the south here is Oakland Road. Staff's estimated cost to initiate these mitigation measures is in the amount of $185,000. Staff is recommending that City Council amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 capital improvement program by adding the El Dorado Fire Storm Season Preparation Project to that program with a budget in the amount of $185,000. The funding that's being proposed for this project is from funding that has been earmarked for non-eligible drainage projects, or non-DIF, Development Impact Fee Program eligible drainage projects, and also from the contingencies that have been established in the fiscal year 2021 general fund budget. I also want to note that that many of the drainage improvement projects and the flood control projects that have been created or that have been constructed throughout the city over the years with our partners on Wilson Creek, Oakland Creek, and Wildwood Creek, they will be beneficial to these downstream properties during the post-fire storm events. At this time, I was going to invite Chief Malinowski to come up and present some information on the information from the Watershed Emergency Response Team report, or the WERT report. There is a lot of information attached to the agenda report for this item, but I'll just briefly try to put Chief Malinowski's hat on and try to provide some of this information. This slide here is an excerpt from the WERT report, and this just shows it's the draft report, which shows the soil burn severity. And as you can see, Bryant Street is here, and then Oakland Road goes up this way up into Oakland, and then down here towards Wildwood Canyon Road. This is the limits of the El Dorado fire, and this is the Apple fire. This slide here shows, again, it's from the draft report, and it shows the combined debris flow hazard in the event that we have a rain event at 3/4 of an inch per hour. And as you can see, the darker the color, the higher the hazard. And again, this is Bryant Street is here, Oakland Road is here, and then Yucaipa is down in this area. The North Bench area is right in here.
Okay, so the North Bench and the city limits is west of that purple.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the same map for a rain event of 1.5 inches per hour. And as you can see, the colors do get darker in the North Bench area here, and then also in the tributary area of Wilson Creek and Oakland Creek. This is another exhibit which shows the 15-minute rainfall threshold for the 50% probability of debris flow. And again, these colors here represent the rain intensity with the, it's kind of difficult to see the colors, but as you can see, even at 1/2 inch per hour, that color is pretty close to the North Bench area and the tributary area to Oakland Creek and Wilson Creek. Again, this is another excerpt from the draft report, just some additional information here. It indicates that the potentially the highest level of risk since the Thomas Fire exists here. That Thomas Fire was a 2017 fire in the Ventura, Santa Barbara area. And also it indicates that the Yucaipa Ridge does have very high vertical and steep slopes and an abundant supply of sediment. One of the important points here is that for the small storms, what we consider the 1-year recurrence interval storm for Yucaipa Ridge area, it will result in a high debris flow hazard, which is, you can see it by those darker red colors in some of the previous maps I showed earlier. This is just some additional information on the debris flow hazards on alluvial fans for the Oakland and Pine Bench area. I did want to point out that this area down here to the north is a tributary to the Oakland Creek, which, as I showed earlier, it flows down along Oakland Road to Pendleton and through the Oakland Creek Basin. These are just some additional maps showing the significant debris flow and flood hazards. This map here, it identifies the tributary areas, Birch Creek, which is in the northern part of Oakland, and Potato Canyon here, which is it's upstream, again, of Oakland Creek and the Oakland Creek Basin. So all this area here, all these flows do flow to the west through the city of Yucaipa. And this is the North Bench area. Again, Ivy is here and Carter. And this does show, it's hard to see in purple, but those are the areas that have been identified as a significant debris flow and flow hazard areas.
Fermin, have we ever issued an evacuation order for potential flooding in the North Bench? Do you know if that's ever taken place?
I don't know.
I
That's
don't
something
think we
that the
have,
fi-
at least as long as I've been here, but I think there is a reasonable chance, according to the folks that were involved in the Oakland meeting a couple weeks ago, that there's a reasonable chance we may have those kinds of issues this winter, depending on how much rain we get.
Will those orders come from the fire department or the flood control? Or?
It's a combination. Ultimately, evacuation orders are kind of overseen, if you will, administered by the sheriff's department, but the call usually comes from a incident command decision that includes fire, flood control, probably city staff in this scenario.
Okay.
And I just wanted to point out that as part of this effort, we will enhance our public outreach efforts. We are in the process of scheduling a community meeting next week, similar to the one that was held up in Oakland a few weeks ago. And we'll work with our rest of the team here at the city on getting some information out to the public regarding the city's efforts and possibly even some information as to the potential evacuations. So I know Chief Malinowski would have some additional information on these slides. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here. He's on a call right now, but so with that, the recommendations before you tonight on the agenda report are number 1 and 3, with the exclusion of number 2, which relates to the resolution that requires a 4/5 vote. So staff is recommending that City Council approve recommendation number 1 and number 3 for this item.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I would also just briefly add that the city manager has authority up to a certain point to begin the process of executing some of these plans that Fermin has talked about already. So we'll start the process in as much as the city manager has authority up to $25,000 anyway, and we'll come back to you next meeting with the resolution number 2, or item number 2, that adopt the resolution that you are unable to act on this evening because of only having 3 council members. So
I understand. Very good. Thank you, Fermin. Good report. I'm sorry Chief isn't here. He's dealing with an issue on Highway 38, as I understand. For the folks who live up in the North Bench or in Area 2 or Area 3, if you have any questions, please fill out a speaker slip and pass them over to Jennifer, and we'll get your questions abated or answered to some degree. And then if not, be sure to keep your ears to the ground and listen for the announcement for the community meeting that we'll have in the future. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments of staff?
I will move item 1 and item 3.
Okay, we have a motion to move and approve items 1 and 3. Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second it. This is Riddell, I'll second it.
Okay, and we have a second from Mr. Riddell, and we will motion to approve items 1 and 3, and we will not move to approve the resolution because of the lack of a 4/5 vote. If there's no further discussion or questions, Jennifer, take roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bogue,
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan, Councilmember Riddell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen, Mayor Avila.
Yes. Okay, motion approves, and we're going to move on to item number 8, COVID-19 related small business assistance loan to grant program, and that'll be Caroline Velarde.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. For your consideration this evening is proposal of the COVID-19 related small business assistance loan to grant program. The early beginnings of this program began on May 27th, 2020, when Council approved the submittal of an application to the County of San Bernardino requesting Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus, or CDBG-CV funds for a small business financial assistance program. The City of Yucaipa is a cooperative city, meaning we partner with the county to implement the federal CDBG program. And we were provided with, as Ray had mentioned earlier this evening, $202,897 in CDBG funds by the county. Since then, staff has been working with county staff to develop the program under a very specific set of CDBG CV guidelines and requirements, which are necessary in order to utilize the funds for a small business assistance program. These requirements include, but are not limited to, a loan to grant component, income-specific restrictions on applicants, and as this is a loan to grant program, specific program compliance requirements that would trigger the loan conversion to a grant. Under the proposed program, small businesses with 6 to 500 employees may be eligible to receive a working capital loan of up to $10,000 to help retain their workforce by using the funds to assist with day-to-day operating expenses. Specifically, this program aims to assist eligible small businesses retain their workforce in the retention of at least one full-time equivalent, or FTE, employee from a low to moderate income household for at least 6 months. The income limits are in the staff report and program guidelines provided to you this evening and adjusted by family size. These are the limits that the FTE's household must not exceed to be eligible. In addition to meeting the income limits for the low to mod FTE and having between 6 and 500 employees, the business must be located in Yucaipa, be for-profit, have an active business license of at least 6 months, have the ability to repay the loan should it not turn into a grant, be negatively affected by the COVID-19 closures, and exhaust all other forms of financial assistance. As part of the program, approved businesses will sign a loan agreement with the city, which outlines the loan terms of 18 months and 0% interest rate. In addition, 100% of the loan amount will be converted to a grant if the business complies with retaining the low to moderate income FTE for a continuous 6-month period, as mentioned. If the business does not comply by failing to retain the FTE for 6 months, the business must repay the initial installment equal to 1/2 of the loan amount to the city. Businesses that don't have the FTE at the time of application will have 6 months, they're still eligible, but they will have 6 months from the date of the agreement to rehire. The city will disperse the loan in 2 installments. 1/2 will be dispersed upfront. The remaining half will be dispersed if the business complies. And the reason for the 2 disbursements is to minimize the financial loss to the city, because under city guidelines, funds loaned to non-compliant businesses are not eligible for reimbursement. So one of the most important factors in the underwriting process when we will receive applications is evaluating the business's ability to repay the loan in the event they are unable to comply. The selection procedures for this program include a two-step application process, which the city has partnered with the Inland Empire Small Business Development Center, or the IESBDC, to serve as the primary reviewer for the full application package. The two-step application process includes 1, a pre-application to screen for basic eligibility requirements. If approved, the SBDC will accept pre-applications beginning tomorrow until November 2nd. And second, the second step is a pre-award underwriting phase, during which approved applicants will be asked to submit more extensive documentation, including but not limited to tax returns, payroll documents, and employment verification. If eligible in the application process, applicants will be placed into one of 2 lotteries, one for preferred applicants with an existing FTE at the time of application, and one lottery with all other eligible applicants. The lotteries will identify the applicants that will proceed to the more extensive pre-underwriting phase. The number of applicants selected will be according to the priority group ordered list, followed by the all other applicants group lottery ordered list, until all the program funds are allocated. Once the SBDC has reviewed and approved an application package, that will then go to the city for final approval and execution of the loan agreement, upon which the first disbursement of the loan amount will be provided to the applicant. As far as timing, the timeline for this program was developed with the reimbursement deadline of April 30th, 2022 in mind. That is when the city has to file reimbursements to the county. As mentioned, the loan term is 18 months. And if approved, the city, through the SBDC, is ready to launch the pre-application period for a period of 2 weeks, followed by a month-long review process, and 1 month for approved applicants to submit the additional documentation for the underwriting phase. We've started outreach on this program just to gauge interest in the community. We've done outreach through the city's website, social media pages, and newsletter to the business community. To date, we've received 26 businesses have expressed their interest in applying to the program. Given the program amount, again, it's $187,000 with $15,000 to $16,000 for staff time. It is anticipated that the city can assist 18 businesses through this program. Therefore, depending on the number of applications received, it is possible that most, if not all, businesses that meet the qualifications could be awarded funds. Fiscally, the impact to the general fund results in the loss of funds due to the number of program defaults, as these are ineligible for reimbursement. Of the $202,897 in CDBG funds provided by the county to the city, approximately $187,000 will be used towards this program, and between $15,000 to $16,000 for staff costs. As is typical with CDBG funding, the city will request reimbursement of funds from the county after the implementation of this program. To initiate program funding, it is recommended that the fiscal year 2021 annual budget in the CDBG fund be amended to include an allocation for revenues and expenditures related to this loan to grant program in the amount of $202,897. It is anticipated that most, if not all, funds will be reimbursed through the county. In conclusion, staff recommends that the council adopt resolution number 2020-61, approving the COVID-19 related small business assistance loan to grant program to include a zero interest loan, and authorize the city manager or his designee to implement the program guidelines and execute individual loan agreements, and amend the FY 2021 annual budget in the CDBG funds to include an allocation for revenues and expenditures related to this loan to grant program in the amount of $202,897. That concludes my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Caroline. Good job. Any questions of staff or comments? Mr. Riddell.
Well, Norton, is there any money available so we wouldn't have to use CDBG funds or I don't object to using them if that's the only money available, but if there's other possible grants, I would like to save the CDBG funds for some capital improvements.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, this particular program is specifically targeted at COVID-19 related expenditures, so infrastructure would not be an eligible use of this source of funds. Our program is one of just a few of those that are being used out there, but some of the other communities, cities have used this program, this type of funding for the rental assistance that you talked about earlier, Mayor Avila. But when we went down this path back in May or June, decided to help, the council decided to help small businesses, but we couldn't use this, can't use this for regular infrastructure projects.
Okay. That answers my question.
It seems like a very cumbersome process. Are there any takers at this point?
Well, to date, as part of our outreach effort, we wanted to measure exactly that based on the process and the interest in the community. And we've had 26 businesses, last I checked, that are interested in the program. And I want to say we've done a pretty good job of letting folks know what will be required and what's entailed through our website. And so 26 businesses have expressed interest.
Okay.
I know of a couple more who's interested too. They just haven't made a final decision yet. So it looks like it might be fairly successful. All right.
I will move agenda item number 8.
All right, we have a motion to approve item number 8. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And we have a second. Are there any more questions or comments of staff or for staff? If not, Jennifer, take the roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bogue,
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan, Councilmember Riddell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen, Mayor Avila.
Yes. All right, that's the end of our agenda items for public. Does the council have any announcements to make? Hearing none, nothing special going on anywhere. Closed session items. Can you refresh our memory, Mr. Snow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had one item listed on the agenda. However, as Mr. Casey noted previously and the council accepted, that item is not going to be discussed this evening.
Very well. So we have no closed session items. And if there's no other comments from anybody, Mr. Riddell, do you have any further comments or announcements?
No announcements, no further comments.
All righty. We'll go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.